Now that our government is being run by a faceless, unelected cabal of credentialed socialist elites who are so intellectually brilliant they have passed beyond the golden realm of genius into an ethereal dumpster of complete stupidity, there's not much left for our dementia-riddled president to do except lie in his lawn chair, eat Jell-O, and start a nuclear war with Russia. The end of the world began as national leaders gathered at the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro, where President Biden was disappointed to learn that Peking lame duck did not mean that dinner was Chinese takeout, but just that he had to stand behind Xi Jinping in the group photo. So, as important world leaders, like whoever the president of Indonesia is, rose to give speeches promoting world peace, the dejected Biden wandered off to finish coloring the Winnie the Pooh gets stuck in a knothole page of his briefing book and then give Ukraine permission to fire American-made long-range missiles into a country run by a power-hungry lunatic with a nuclear arsenal large enough to reduce the ruins of Great Britain to the ruins of Great Britain. In a speech delivered to a potted plant he mistook for a little girl with great-smelling hair, Biden explained why he changed his strategy from letting the war drag on forever through maundering incompetence to getting everyone on Earth killed through maundering incompetence. The president told the adorable little plant, quote, "Given the inexcusable aggression of Vladimir Putin's reckless attempt to rebuild the Russian Empire by invading a perfectly innocent cesspit of corruption like Ukraine, I just wanted to see the pretty streaks of light that missiles make when you fire them across the night sky. And by the way, your hair smells terrific, but I don't think you should have dyed it green like that," unquote. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky was ecstatic at being set free to recklessly provoke a nuclear power and celebrated by adding yet another inexplicable Y to his last name, then goose-stepping back and forth through the rubble of a children's hospital while spouting double talk in a French accent in the hope someone might mistake him for Napoleon. Russian President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, responded to the attacks by lowering the Russian standard for nuclear retaliation. Whereas before, the Putin doctrine declared that a Russian nuclear attack could only be triggered as a self-defensive response to a ground invasion of the motherland, it now permits the launch of world-destroying total war as a gesture of annoyance at the crappy finale of Gilmore Girls or any other equivalently frothy but delightful streaming concoction. The doctrine is mitigated by the fact that nuclear launch cannot begin without the final approval of President Putin or anyone else wearing a spiked helmet and beating his bare chest while proclaiming his right to world domination. Among political conservatives, the sudden launch of American-made missiles from Ukraine into Russia set off a round of wild speculation as to Biden's motives. Some claimed that the president had set World War III in motion as a reaction to the recent election results, because he felt a series of bright explosions that turned the sky into a sparkling wonderland of irradiated human ash would be an appropriately spectacular way for him to celebrate the defeat of Kamala Harris after she humiliated him by forcing him to abandon a presidential campaign that he would absolutely have won had he still been alive in any meaningful sense of the word. Such theories were dismissed as implausible, however, because they depended on Biden thinking clearly enough to have a discernible motive. As for President-elect Donald Trump, he spent the day at the Florida headquarters of SpaceX, where he watched Elon Musk launch a 400-foot-tall starship that would travel halfway around the globe, land gently on Vladimir Putin's desk in his office at the Kremlin, and open to release a miniature robot Trump who would march out, slap Putin in the face, tell him to stop invading other people's countries all the time, then march back into the starship, which would return safely to Florida after stopping at McDonald's to pick up a Happy Meal. So the transition continues. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back laughing our way through the greatest administration that hasn't even started yet. If you have not yet bought A Woman Underground, you are in danger of eternal damnation. I'm not just saying this to sell the book. It's a theological point. It is a wonderful book. You will enjoy it. Give it to your friends and relatives for Christmas. You really will. The reactions to it are ecstatic, and I think you will like it. And then you can go back and read the whole Cameron Winter mystery series. A Woman Underground, go buy it. Also, leave a comment anywhere that you are getting this show, whether it's on DailyWire Plus, where you should be getting it because you should be a member, or in on YouTube or one of those other places. If you leave a comment and it is absolutely disgusting, I hope you will, make it as disgusting as you possibly can, racist, sexist, all the other things that make it just fit right in with the rest of our programming, and I will read it on the air. Today's comment is from J. Laddie Yost or JL Addy Yost. I'm not sure. It says, just a funny note. I left the captions on for your show, and the AI that does the captions always spells Klavan Claven, which belies the name artificial intelligence, obviously. All right, let us get to today's episode, The Magical Trump Effect. I want to talk about this because it is the real news that's going on beneath the news of the day. The news of the day just right now is that Matt Gaetz has removed his name from consideration for the Attorney General appointment. And a lot of theories going on about why that has happened. Some people have elaborate theories that Donald Trump planned this all to get him out of an ethics investigation or whatever. But no, I doubt that's true. I think what's probably true is Gaetz surveyed the senators and found out he didn't have the votes, and probably doesn't have the votes, not because the Senate Republicans don't want to get Trump the people he wants. It's probably because there's something in that ethics investigation. All the attention is on the sexual charges because everybody loves talking about sex, but sexual charges are hard to pin down because it's he said, she said, and we can always say, oh, Clinton did this and JFK. It's always back and forth about stuff like that. Money's a little easier, and I wonder if there's something in the ethics. This is my guess, is something in the ethics report that they're not releasing yet, but will eventually be leaked, that maybe was a little bit more damning for Matt Gaetz, and he didn't want to sit through, weeks of being torn to pieces only to be rejected. So Trump has now appointed Pat Bondi, who was the former Florida AG, one of his defenders in one of the fake impeachment trials. So I think she's a great pick, and she's a really tough former prosecutor, smart lady, and she'll do a great job, and I think she'll sail through the Senate. Pam Bondi, sorry, I said Pat Bondi, Pam Bondi. The real news, however, the deep news that we want to cover on this show is something else altogether. There has been a lot of argument lately, especially this week, about whether Trump won a mandate. The people on the left are coming back and saying, well, his popular vote may be beneath 50%. It seems it's around 50% to Kamala's 48%. And so everyone's saying that's not a mandate, that's a narrow victory, and nobody wants him to do the things he wants, and they're not supporting him. That's because they think that this election is about the victory of Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. That's the way political people think. It's not about that at all. Well, it's about that, of course, in a minor way and in a direct way. But it's really the big story. The real story is that Donald Trump has broken the stranglehold of a delusional social imaginary created by a gang of failed, incompetent, arrogant, credentialed elites over decades. People in the academies, people in the media, people in the deep state, for years have wrapped us with this kind of boa constrictor of lies that has been choking our freedom of speech and our freedom of action and our freedom to defy the government and live as we choose. Just consider this for a minute, just step back for a minute so you get a picture of what we've been going through, not just last year and not just since Obama, but for a long time. The Supreme Court invented a constitutional right to gay marriage. Suddenly, we're all required to spend an entire month celebrating our wonderful pride at people being homosexual. And listen, I don't bother anybody about his private sex life. It's truly none of my business. But I don't think it's worth 10 seconds of being proud of a homosexuality. I don't think that's a cause for pride or celebration. It's something that happens in life. I think it's part of the way of things. But still, why are we doing that? Why was the White House lit up with rainbow colors after Obama himself said marriage is between a man and a woman and God is in the mix, all those lies that he told? Suddenly, this steel trap of opinion closes down, where if you come out and say what has been Christian wisdom for 2,000 years, maybe this is not God's will that people do this stuff, suddenly you're a hateful, horrible person. And that can, cost you your job. It can cost you your social media. It can cost you your friends. All of that stuff just closes down like that, and it's over. That's what the machine that was built to stop us. An angry lesbian academic comes out and says, gender norms are just a social construct. This is thousands of years of human history, human civilization, where no one has ever thought, ever, that a man could turn into a woman. No one has ever had that thought. Hominids have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. Not one of them has ever tried to change sex. all of a sudden, if you say that this is wrong or mental illness or just crazy or something not realistic, you are a phobic guy and you're just a terrible, terrible person. Where meanwhile, there's wearing a woman's admiral suit parading around Health and Human Services saying, oh, children have to have their testicles cut off because then feel better about himself. So I'm not attacking people who are abnormal. This is important. I'm not attacking people who are abnormal. I'm abnormal. I'm an artist. It's not the thing that most people are. And when you're abnormal, there are certain strains in life, travails, exclusions. You're not like other people. You're a little bit different than other people. And sometimes that can be painful to you. Sometimes that can cause you trouble. That's life. The reason we accept that pain is because in a sane society, normality reflects the forms of creation, because the forms of creation are the language of God. So we live into those forms. Men marry women. Then they create children. They raise them according to their values and traditions. This is timeless human practice. You worship God. This happens in every civilization. You try to serve and please God as you know him to be. You have faith that there's something basically good about you and your neighbors and your country. And this is going to shock some people, but we actually do not need a group of elites sitting on a wire like a murder of crows and cawing at us that we should be so ashamed of our ordinary humanity, of our country and all this, that we should live in a loveless, childless, joyless, godless, nationless way and just let our civilization decline and die. Nobody needs that. It is an unnecessary thing. I'm sure you saw the Jaguar and Volvo commercials, or at least you probably saw the Jaguar commercials. Jaguar's a crap car, by the way, in my humble opinion. But they have this Jaguar commercial of intersectional people, men who look like women or are women, who knows, in these weird outfits, giving you that look that they all give you of like, what? You have a problem with me? Walking around with a sledgehammer, breaking stuff and all this. And that they think is good. There's not even a picture of a car in it. That they think is going to sell Jaguar. Meanwhile, Volvo came out with their ad, which is a guy on the phone to his mom telling her that his wife is pregnant and all of the hopes and fears he has for the little daughter they're about to have. And it ends with a Volvo, great car, by the way. I've owned Volvos a lot and they're wonderful, wonderful cars. It ends with the lady in a Volvo hitting the brakes, and Volvos are very safe cars, and the car stops, and the cut line is sometimes the things that don't happen are the things that matter most. In other words, this is going to keep your family safe, because creating life, men and women creating life, is the center of life. It is the center of life. All these other things are abnormalities that in a rich, happy country we can tolerate to a large extent, but we're not going to turn our lives around about them. This snake of lies, of elite lies, was coiled so tightly around our throat, we could barely get the breath or the courage to protest. And that is what happened when a obnoxiously belligerent Donald Trump forced common sense back into the conversation, even though people were hating him, even though people like me objected to his manners. He forced common sense back into the conversation and has broken that prison of lies and set us all free. And that, if he had one extra vote over Kamala Harris, that is titanic. That is amazing. That is huge. And that is why we love to play this, Cut 14.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
To stay healthy, you got to get your fruits and vegetables. And a lot of people don't eat enough because they don't like the juice running down their chin, stuff getting stuck in their teeth and all that. And yet you look at me and you say, whoa, you don't look more than 30 or 40 centuries old. How do you stay so healthy? Well, It all comes down to balance of nature, fruits and veggies. There's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day. Now stop imagining that because it's absolutely disgusting. With Balance of Nature, you get an on-the-go solution by taking 31 different fruits and vegetables. They freeze dry them, turn them into a powder, and then put them into a capsule. It couldn't get any more convenient than that. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code Klavan for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code Klavan. You will wake up in the morning feeling, wow, I wish I knew how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. Chapter 1, The Ladies' Room. Here's why I don't care about Matt Gaetz. There's a headline on the front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning. Matt Gaetz stepping down shows the limits of Trump's power or something like that. I just thought, why not just run a headline that tells the news, which is that Matt Gaetz pulled his name out of the running. You don't have to tell us what it means because every president does this, almost. I mean, every president has appointees who don't make it through because of some piece of information they didn't know. And this is, as I say, I just don't care. Here's something far more important that happened, right? Who calls himself Sarah McBride has become the first transgender case to win election to the House of Representatives, congressman pretending to be a congresswoman from Delaware. Congresswoman, actual congresswoman from South Carolina and a victim, Nancy Mace, said she doesn't want penis people in her ladies' room in Congress. I don't blame her. I mean, even if she weren't a victim, obviously this would be a horrible thing to do to a woman in any society. But the fact that she has suffered from this, it makes it all the more, what can I say, powerful that she should be the one to stand up. So she introduced a bill banning them on the House side of the Capitol and followed up with introducing a ban on all federal property. She was on an interview with a lady from Scripps, and she called this Congress he, and she was corrected by the interviewer. And this is a little part of that exchange. This is cut one.
The Congresswoman-elect does identify as a woman. I will be.
She's not a woman. It's a man. She was born a man. She's a man. She's biologically a male. That is science. You guys on the left and the mainstream media want to say, follow the science. Well, let's follow the science, okay? He is a man. He can wear a dress. He can call himself, his pronouns can be she or her, but he doesn't belong in a women's restroom, period.
And also doesn't have a period. But here's the thing. She goes on to say in this clip, the clip was too long to play the whole thing, but she goes on to say that probably mentally ill. And to me, the definition of being mentally ill is thinking you're something you're not, thinking that reality is something other than what it obviously is. And yes, I do think this kind of transgenderism is a mental illness. I mean, when you say things are true, they're obviously not true. Like if you're a man saying you're a woman, or you think Stephen Colbert is funny, that constitutes a disconnection from reality. Here's the important part of the story, and this to me is the most important. I'm going to play for you what I think are the most important two clips of this week. Here is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. His first reaction to this is he's asked by the press whether this Congress is a congressman or a congresswoman. This is cut 2.
Mr. Speaker, is freshman-elect Sarah McBride a man or a woman?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. We welcome all new members with open arms who are duly elected representatives of the people. I believe it's a command that we treat all persons with dignity and respect, and we will. And I'm not going to engage in silly debates about this. There's a concern about the uses of restroom facilities and locker rooms and all that. This is an issue that Congress has never had to address before, and we're going to do that in deliberate fashion with member consensus on it, and we will accommodate the needs of every single person. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. Later the same day, he comes back. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, comes back and makes the following comment, cut 3.
I was asked a question this morning at the leadership gaggle, and I rejected the premise because the answer is so obvious. For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman. That said, I also believe, that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, But I also believe that we treat everybody with dignity. And so we can do and believe all those things at the same time. And I wanted to make that clear for everybody because there's lots of questions. But that's where I stand. I've stood there my whole life, and those are facts.
So obviously he came out and he kind of felt he bobbled that question by saying, yes, I don't want to get involved. And then he came back with a definitive answer. Now, another Johnson, the great 18th century lexicographer Samuel Johnson, had a wonderful phrase, clear your mind of cant. Cant are things that you say automatically, words that you say automatically that you don't mean. Now, a lot of people are going to watch that. I know this because I see it online all the time. They're going to say, oh, Mike Johnson, he's a coward. Oh, he's a rhino. All untrue. Guy's not a coward. He's not a rhino. He's a good, conservative, smart, tough, godly politician who's got probably the most difficult job next to the presidency in the country. Maybe the mayor of New York is another one, but the Speaker of the House is just a terrible job. You have to wrangle, liberals and conservatives and everybody. Got to sort of get them together and try to form a coalition and keep it together. It's a very, very difficult job. Okay. However, he is wrapped in this thing that I'm talking about, this bubble. And so are you, and so am I. And if you get the cant out of your mind, oh, that Mike Johnson, he's a coward, and if you get that stuff out of your mind and look at yourself realistically, at the things that you have refused to say, at the times you've held your tongue, at the times you've mitigated honest, open statements that don't have to be cruel. I mean, I'm not trying to be cruel to people who feel that they're the wrong sex. I'm trying to be realistic about it and make laws for the general good, right? Because laws can't take in everybody. Laws are a blunt instrument. They're for the general good. And the normal life is what they are trying to protect because normal life is good. Men and women are good. Marriage is good. Those are the things, those are the pillars that the society stands on. And those are the things you're trying to protect. And the fact that a guy wants to put on a dress and goes into a woman's room is nothing. It's nothing. He's got to go use the men's room just like every other person who is built in that way. Okay. So he's not being a wuss. That's how powerful they were until November 6th. Okay. That's how powerful they were. I can tell you, I work for this company, DailyWire, great company. Really, I've seen people here stand back and stand down because of that social imaginary. It is incredibly powerful. You don't even know you're doing it. You don't even know that you're ceding, moral authority to people who kill babies. They're kill babies. They have no moral authority. Every interview with every person should be like when the person questions a Republican, he should say, I'm sorry, you kill babies. You have no right to question my morality. You've lost that right. That's but we can't see it. We can't see that that's the world. That is the thing that has happened. And that is the reason why, and I did say this from the beginning, even though I've always been uncomfortable with Trump's manners, I did say he was the man we needed because that's how tough this has become. Let's see. I want to take a look at some more of the ways the magical Trump effect is already taking effect. Even though Trump hasn't taken office yet, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. We should go into Thanksgiving giving thanks. As you know, the radical left is plotting and planning against you all the time. And one thing they want to do is ruin your sleep. They want you tossing and turning, worried about the latest crisis they've manufactured for just that purpose. But we need to be well rested to fight the good fight. And that's why I want to tell you about Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed, healthy, hot cocoa for sleep. Listen, I don't sleep much, but when I want to sleep, I turn to Beam Dream because it puts you out. It is so nice. And it doesn't make you feel all groggy as if you've taken a sleeping pill. I've tried other things. I tried counting sheep, but the sheep just kept messing all over the place. This is what I've discovered. Dream Powder. Beam Dream Powder. It's been a game changer. Other sleep aids can cause that grogginess, but this is a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin, and other things that are hard to pronounce, but help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. And the best part is it tastes great. I love the sea salt caramel flavor. I love anything with sea salt caramel. And this is only 15 calories, and there's no sugar. It's like having dessert before bed, and it's good for you. Just mix it with hot water or milk, and you're ready for some serious rest. There's never been a better time to finally Try Dream. Shop their cyber sale and get up to 50% off when you visit shopbeam.com/Klavan. You've been hearing me rave about it. This is your chance to finally try it for the lowest price of the year. Head over to shopbeam.com/KLAVAN. No E's in Klavan. There's an E in Beam, but no E's in Klavan. I just make it look this easy. You will get 50% off with that Klavan. So shop BEAM.com/Klavan for up to 50% off. Chapter 2, Oklahoma, okay. Another incredibly important, this may be the most important story of this week outside of the fact that Biden is accidentally starting World War III. This may be the most important political, social story of the week. Ryan Walters, the superintendent of public instruction in Oklahoma, and he's a Trump partisan, loves Trump. So after Louisiana passed a law saying the 10 Commandments should be displayed in classrooms, it's a law that's been temporarily blocked by a federal judge. But after that, Walters declared that every class in Oklahoma public schools should have a King James Bible in it, and there should be teaching from that Bible. Then he sent out a video demanding that it be played in all public schools in Oklahoma. Now, this is cut 6.
For too long in this country, we've seen the radical left attack individuals' religious liberty in our schools. We will not tolerate that in Oklahoma. Your religious liberties will be protected. We've also seen patriotism mocked and a hatred for this country pushed by woke teachers' unions. We will not tolerate that in any school in Oklahoma. We want our students to be patriotic. We want our students to love this country. And we want all students' religious liberty to be protected. I will now say a prayer. And to be clear, students, you don't have to join. But if you so wish, I'm going to go ahead and pray. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you've given our country. I pray for our leaders to make the right decisions. I pray in particular for President Donald Trump and his team as they continue to bring about change to the country.
Okay, now you can guess what the left is saying. He wants people to pray in schools. He wants them to pray for Donald Trump, which of course is the worst possible thing you can do. It's even almost worse than praying itself. Now, I have to explain something that I think a lot of people don't get. This guy, Ryan Walters, he and I are culturally different, right? I'm a New Yorker. I find it really, really difficult to speak that bluntly about religion. It's a really tough thing. Like, for instance, a lot of times when I'm with Christian friends, they're in a restaurant, they want to say grace in the restaurant. As a New Yorker, I'm reluctant to do that. It's just a cultural thing. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has nothing to do with how I feel and whether I thank God for food. I thank God for everything, for every moment of life. I thank God truly, truly I do. But it's just not a thing that you do in New York. It's a thing that you don't do. And everybody agrees that you don't do it, just like there are cultural customs everywhere. So this guy and I are speaking it's like a different cultural language. And that's perfectly fine. It's a great, great big country with cities and countries and plains and, forests and all those things. And we all come from different places and we speak culturally. But everybody in the press, in the media is from my part of the culture. Everyone, almost all of them are if they didn't start out as coastal elites, they became coastal elites because all of the media is situated on the coasts. And so they become part of that culture, and they get uncomfortable with this. But when we translate what Ryan Walters is saying, what he's trying to do, into whatever language we speak, he is 100% correct. And this is one of the most important issues in the country. And of course, he came under fire from a CNN anchorwoman, Shapley Nudnik, who was interviewing him, and she was just very, very upset about the whole thing. Let's take a look at what will we say? We'll take a look at cut 7 here.
Scholars say the Constitution is crystal clear on freedom of religion, not enforcing one religion, your religion, on students. What do you say?
Look, CNN doesn't have to like it. Left-wing activists don't have to like it.
I'm just talking about facts. It's not my opinion.
Document. The Bible is a historical document. You can't rewrite history, okay? The reality is the Bible was what drove so many of the consequential events in American history. Why'd the Pilgrims come to America? Why in the world did Abraham Lincoln mention God and God's providence in so many of his speeches? How do you explain Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail where he goes through biblical examples if the left continues to censor the Bible from our history classes? Listen, the left doesn't have to like it. They can be offended by it, but we've got to teach history to our young people. To make this country great again, President Trump has a clear mandate. Our kids have to understand what made America great in the first place. And obviously the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence are indispensable in understanding the story of America.
See, and it's really wonderful, too. One of the things I love about this story is that, remember when they brought porn into schools and little kids are looking at this homosexual porn and outraged parents showed up at school board meetings. They wrote to the FBI and requested that those parents be investigated as potential terrorists. And Merrick Babyface Garland immediately agreed that that's what I mean, it took him 10 minutes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, these guys are obviously, terrorists and we're going to stop them. And the people started to say, well, parents have the right to raise their children. The left said, no. They're all our children. Everybody, it takes a village to raise a child. They're all our children. Now, suddenly, people are complaining that this guy is taking their parental rights away because he's not giving them porn, but he's giving them the Bible. It kind of reminds me of an argument I got into my father when he saw me reading the Bible. He would have much rather seen me reading porn than reading the Bible. So let's just, we'll have a little exchange about that with Shapley Nudnik and Ryan Walters. This is cut 9.
Everyone who signed that list, everybody suing me, they're the same people that want genderqueer inflamer in the classroom under the guise of...
That's not necessarily true. You are painting everyone with a broad brush.
I know the litigants in the case. The ACLU sued me on both, Southern Poverty Law Center. The reality is these people want radical gender pornography in the classroom, but they don't want the Bible.
But they would say the Bible has pornography and incest and rape. So what do you say to that?
You think the Bible's on the same plane as genderqueer?
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying.
I love what I like about Shapley's response there is that it's both stupid, but it has a sort of measure of interesting truth to it. And the Bible does have, incest and violence and rape and all that stuff because it has life in it. And that's one of the reasons we think the Bible is true is because the life in it looks like life. And one of the reasons I object to Christians who want everything to be sanitized and clean, because the Bible is not sanitized and clean. It has nothing to do with pornography. It is not pornographic in any way, shape, or form. It just has life in it, which includes a lot of bad things, as we know. Okay, so this is about this wall of separation between church and state. And that's, I'm sure most of you know, is a phrase contained in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Church. It was written in 1802. And it was Jefferson's interpretation of the First Amendment's dictum that Congress should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This had nothing to do with how states govern themselves. It had to do with what Congress could do. It should make no law respecting an establishment of religion. It was intended to protect the religious from the government. It was intended to keep the government from forcing one religion over another on people. Now, the Supreme Court takes that phrase from a letter, which is not in the Constitution, although the Constitution does make sure that the government keeps out of religion. And in 1878, they said this line from the letter may be accepted almost as an authoritative declaration of the scope and effect of the First Amendment. How they got there, I don't know. Then in 1947, Justice Hugo Black, in his opinion in Everson versus Board of Education, quoted Jefferson's term of wall of separation and said that wall must be high and impregnable, which meant that the separation of church and state would be applied in all aspects of government, not just the federal level. And it should be mentioned here, it's important that Hugo Black was a Ku Klux Klansman. He really was. He was a Ku Klux Klansman. He was known to hate Catholics. He was suspected, and this was before Michael Knowles, so he had no excuse. He was known to hate Catholics, and as the Ku Klux Klan did, the Ku Klux Klan was for Protestant. Their version of Protestant Christianity involved burning a cross on your lawn if they didn't like you, if you were Catholic or Black or Jewish or any of those things. And Hugo Black was one of these guys, and he didn't apparently believe the historical clues are that he didn't believe in religion, and he kind of rejected it. So somewhere around the same time, there was another decision, McCollum versus Board of Education. The Supreme Court said, in the words of Jefferson, the clause against establishment of religion by law was intended to erect a wall of separation between church and state. And this is when they said that religious instruction in public schools should not be allowed. So this wall metaphor now entered the schools. Now, these decisions are wrong on so many levels, and it was not, I think, what the Constitution was trying to protect. And Jefferson was the most radical of the founders, and I frequently disagree with him, but he's important to include because I believe we should have kind of a strain of revolutionary thought running through our country. That's a good thing. It just shouldn't be predominant, but it should be there, and Jefferson is included in the founders. You can't get rid of him and shouldn't get rid of him. However, what's happened now is these wrong decisions, these misguided decisions, have now been enforced on every school in the country by the ACLU, the Un-American, Uncivil, Unliberty Union, okay? And what they do is they go in and they sue you. If you put up this 10 Commandments or you teach about the Bible, you teach what's in the Bible, they go in and they threaten to sue you. And most schools don't have the money to handle a lawsuit, so they cave in. They cave in and they avoid these lawsuits. And if you've ever been in any kind of business, you know that nobody wants to deal with a lawsuit. And so the minute that becomes a threat, people run for the hills. The problem is, if you stop discussing God in your school system, you're essentially ceding the point that God doesn't exist, because you talk about things that are real in life. You talk about science, you talk about literature, you talk about math. You should talk about God. You should learn about God. And, that's why, by the way, a lot of people want to bring hellfire against people who have different religions. If you're a Jew and you don't accept Jesus Christ, or if you're Islamic and you're, not one of the violent Islamic people, but people who are Islamic, you're supposed to hate each other. No, I think that people should talk about God in a civil way and talk about their differences. I want to hear why people believe something different than me, because nobody's seen God, as the Bible tells us, right? And so you want to be able to hear all the things, all the ways that God may get into people's lives. I'm really interested in that. But, so this is why, one of the other things that Shapley Nudnik said on CNN to Ryan Walters was like, why don't you teach the Quran? Well, here's my plan, because I think this is important. The ACLU has chased religion out of schools, which is, in fact, chasing God out of schools. I think public schools, anyone that will agree to do it, like in the red states especially, should teach a class on the Bible and how it influenced the worldview of every single founder that we had. Every single founder was shaped by the Bible, even the few of them who were deists and didn't believe in the Christian religion. Every one of them was shaped by the Bible, because we're all everybody in the West was shaped by the Bible, because the culture was shaped by the Bible. That is a legitimate class, right? That is a legitimate historical class. And then I think that's one class. And then I think there should be another comparative religion class that teaches the different way that the most important religions, not every little creed and sect, but the most important religions that have shaped the world differ on the way God looks. That's what I think they should do. And then I think they should wait for the ACLU to sue them. And then I think every one of us should take $1 out of our pocket and send it to them so they can fight that lawsuit back to the Supreme Court, where there is now a majority of sensible constitutionalists who might turn those decisions around. I think every state in the union that has any conservative bent at all should institute these things into the lowest levels of our children's schools. I think children should be talking about God for the simple reason that God exists, and they should be talking about reality all the time. We were bullied out of our religion. We should bully it right back into the public square, because that's where it belongs, and that's where God belongs. In this era of perpetual noise and endless distractions, finding your sanctuary becomes not just desirable, it's essential. Enter Helix Sleep, the key to unlocking your nightly retreat from the madness. Helix isn't about following sleep trends or using pseudoscientific gimmicks. They're committed to one thing: giving you the best sleep possible. Their Helix Elite Collection features 6 different mattress models, each designed for specific sleep positions and firmness preferences. It's almost as if they recognize that we're all individuals with distinct needs. Shocking, I know, but it works. You might be thinking buying a mattress online is a little dodgy, but no, Helix has thought of that too. They've created an ingenious sleep quiz that matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress. It's like having a sleep psychologist minus the hourly rate. I took the Helix quiz. I was matched with a firm but breathable mattress, and I can tell you, because I lie awake all night, it's an incredible place to lie awake, and you'll like it for sleeping. Some people do that, I know, I've heard, but I like to lie awake on it because it's just that comfortable, and I appreciate it every hour of the night. Helix even offers a 10-year warranty and a 100-night risk-free trial. They'll even pick it up if you don't love it. So if you're ready to revolutionize your sleep and wake up refreshed to fight the good fight, Helix is offering my listeners 25% off all mattress orders, plus 2 free Dream pillows with any mattress purchase. And if you get a Luxe or Elite mattress, Helix is also including a free bedding bundle, meaning 2 Dream pillows, a sheet set, and a mattress protector. Just go to helixsleep.com/Klavan. That's HELIXSLEEP.com/KLAVAN. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Chapter 3 by Leftism. Now, one of the reasons I kind of hammer the God nail a little hard sometimes because I think it's so important because of this social imaginary that has wiped him out of our square and made it difficult for people who consider themselves intellectuals, people who consider themselves reasonable, realistic people, have a hard time talking about God in direct terms. I do. I mean, I think a lot of people do. That we don't want to say, yes, I feel that God wants me to do that. Now you're talking like someone from Oklahoma, and you know what those people are like. And so I think it's just really, really important that we start to say, like, no, this is just a reality of life. A reality of life is it doesn't make sense that this world came out of nothing, that it obviously was created, that our Creator is connected to us in some ways, and in some ways the stories that we tell and the things we know and the things we believe and feel are all part of this creation, and they are good. It is good to want to have children. It is good for a man to want a woman and a woman to want a man, and that it's good that a man not be alone and a woman not be alone. These are good things. These normal things are good. And we understand that even creation involves things that are abnormal, and there's some pain to being abnormal, but it's not always bad. A genius violinist is abnormal, but it's a good thing. And so we have to, discern these things. But we have to talk about these things in turn. And I think it's important that sophisticated, intellectual, cultured people do it because ideas tend to trickle down, because a lot of people are intellectually insecure and they think, well, if all the professor guys are telling me there's no God, maybe I should keep it down a little bit. And that's how they start to inject this fog of unknowing into our culture. And the thing is, it is simply true that when you take away religion, some other wrong religion will take its place. So when you get rid of God, some earthbound religion will take its place. And of course, we've seen this. We've seen that leftism is a replacement for religion, that people believe in it with the same tenacity. And, it's very unfortunate that religion has become a phrase meaning unreasoning faith, because there's nothing in Christianity that is unreasoning. You accept something by faith because you feel that it has been demonstrated, not proved. You can't prove the existence of God because proof is a material thing, but we feel that the existence of God has been demonstrated, and now we have faith in that demonstration, and then we can start to talk about the things that follow from it in a totally logical, reasonable way. But religion has come to mean blind belief in something that can't be proven, and that's just not what it is. But that's what leftism is. Leftism is a blind belief that men can become women. And even if science says it's not, that you're still a good person for believing it. And what a terrible, terrible thing it is. I heard AOC saying, this is terrible, stupid, that people should be banned from bathrooms according to their sex. And I thought, AOC should start a group called Democrats Who Don't Care About the Feelings of Rape Victims. That would be a good group for AOC to run when Nancy Mace is fighting to have her space protected as it has been through all of human history. All right. So the reason it's important is because when it goes away, it leaves a vacuum into which other wrong things come. And one of those things is this idea from the left that the Christian morals that they can't get rid of should be applied as a general principle instead of as an individual path to salvation. And they confuse those things all the time. So this week, there was a resolution in the case of Laken Riley. And I'm sure you all remember Laken Riley, say her name, a young lady, a college student who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant. And this illegal immigrant was found, illegal alien, I should say. He's not an immigrant. He's an illegal alien. He was a member of the Venezuela gang that we hear so much about, Tren de Aragua. And he was convicted in a Georgia court of the murder of Laken Riley and sentenced to life without parole. And she went for a jog, and he followed her, strangled her, beat her to death with a rock. So after the conviction, the family shows up for the sentencing hearing to talk to the judge. And her stepfather came forward and read her final journal entry about how she looked forward to meeting her one-day husband and to being a good Christian wife. And I may take my earset out while we play this because I can't listen to it without cracking up, and I don't want to do that. I want to be able to talk about it, but you should listen to this. Cut 4.
To my future husband, I want you to know that I'm thinking about you. I'm working every day to become the best wife I can be. By working through my current relationships to best prepare me for ours and our kids one day. I'm focusing on God and what He defines as a faithful Christian life, and so that I can best embody those characteristics. I pray that you know that it is with my full faith and trust in God that I know this relationship has been handcrafted by Him. I pray that we continue to glorify the Lord, prioritize Him in every aspect of our lives, and raise our family, our future family, to be God-fearing Christians as well.
I love Matt Walsh's work. I love the work he's been doing. I don't like him personally. Obviously, the guy's intolerable, but the stuff he's been doing. But when he asked the question, what is a woman? A lot of people tried to come up with a definition. It's an adult human female. It's at 2 X chromosomes. It's, we're born with this body type and this body equipment and all that. What you just heard, that journal entry, that's the answer to the question. That's what is the answer to what is a woman. Because this is an important part of faith in God, is you start to understand that our words are not just words, and they don't just express scientific materialist details. That's a mistake that you get when you take God out of the schools and when you take God out of the public arena. You make the mistake of thinking our words are simply descriptions of physical reality. They are not. When you use a word like wife, like mother, like woman, you are using a word with spiritual meaning, and that meaning was just expressed in that journal entry. And that is the person who was murdered by this guy. And how did he get in here, right? And listen, as you know, I keep saying this, but that person, that woman, that meaning of woman is the center of the world. It is central to the human world. And I'm not trying to be sentimental or denigrate man or anything. Elon Musk, I think it's so cool that Elon Musk is building rockets to go to Mars. What a wonderful thing. And I think Elon Musk will be in the history books in ways that your mom is not. But you tell me who's more important, okay? If that somebody's in the history books, it's just because that's what history is. History is about things that change, the direction of the general life. But with all respect to Nancy Mace, we don't need a single female congressperson. If every woman in Congress went home, the world would run fine. If every mother stopped doing what she was doing, the world would fall to pieces. Now, here is a clip of Josh Hawley, God bless him, talking to Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of Homeland Security, and describing the fact that this guy, that Christian woman, that person who is central to everything in our lives, everything good in our lives, everything that comes out of our lives, that person was by this guy who committed crimes and was never held to account. And this was what Hawley said to Mayorkas' lying face. Cut 5.
Nothing is done to this guy. He had a criminal record to start with. He's in the country on illegal grounds. You have falsely and illegally allowed him in. He commits a crime against a child. He's not prosecuted. It's expunged. In November, get this, in November, Ibarra files an application for employment authorization. And unbelievably, on December the 9th, 2023, it's approved. So this is your policies in action, Mr. Secretary. A criminal is permitted into this country on grounds flatly not permitted, flatly contradictory to the statute. He commits a crime against a child, and then he gets a work permit. He gets a work permit. You want to know why all of the jobs in the last 2 or 3 years have gone to illegal migrants? Working people in this country can't get a job. Their unemployment rate's high. Why? Because of things like this. And then what's he do? Well, we all know. Then in February, he commits the heinous crime against Laken Riley.
Not only was he given a work permit, he was put up at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York, which I've stayed in and is a lovely hotel. He was given a free plane ticket to Georgia, where he committed the courtesy of you. Your tax dollars went to doing that. The district attorney in Georgia, where he was tried, Deborah Gonzalez, appointed a special prosecutor to take over the case because she had been criticized for being one of these lenient prosecutors. And she said her office will no longer seek the death penalty. And when considering charging defendants, she would, quote, take into account collateral consequences to undocumented defendants. This woman, who is, as I say, the center of our universe, of the human world, this woman at the center of our human world was battered to death by Joe Biden, by leftists, by leftism. They killed her. They killed her. And they argued for it in Christian terms by saying that the Bible says we should take in the stranger. We should welcome the stranger. This is a false Christian argument. I wrote about this on my Substack with Spencer, thenewjerusalem.substack.com. I said, when someone says we must open our borders because the Bible demands we welcome the stranger, he is talking nonsense. An individual might, in a specific instance, look the other way as a mother sneaks her child through a checkpoint, but a president who leaves the border open is a wicked buffoon, inviting chaos, violence, and cruelty into his nation without regard for the laws he has sworn to uphold. The parent of a murder victim may forgive the killer, but a judge doesn't have that right. Society must deliver justice even where the individual shows mercy. This is why Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, a devout Catholic, said a Christian judge is not a judge who gives the law a Christian interpretation, but a judge who does his best to interpret the law as it is written. Because God is real, right? When we don't talk about him, we allow leftist buffoons to get reality wrong. And when they get reality wrong, a woman like Laken Riley, a Christian woman, the pinnacle of God's creation, is a Christian woman, in my opinion, is snuffed out by a false religion, leftism. That's the fight we're in. That's the fight I believe we have just started to win with the help of Donald Trump. Listen, every society throughout history has grappled with profound moral questions. Today, we face one of the most fundamental, the value and protection of human life at its earliest stages. PreBorn Ministries takes a compassionate, evidence-based approach to supporting women facing difficult decisions. Their network of clinics, strategically positioned in areas with limited pregnancy resources, offers something remarkable: the opportunity for expectant mothers to witness the miracle of early human development through free ultrasound technology. When a mother sees her baby's heartbeat and detailed imaging on an ultrasound screen, something transformative happens. The abstract becomes tangible. The majority of women who receive these services choose to continue their pregnancy. That's a testament to the power of information and support over coercion. This isn't just about statistics. It's about providing women with the resources they need to make informed decisions about their future. PreBorn maintains a 4-star charity rating, ensuring your contribution directly supports their mission. Your support today can make an immediate impact, and right now, every dollar goes twice as far through our matching campaign. Consider a leadership gift of $5,000, $10,000, or even $15,000, all of which will be doubled, or just start with $28 for one ultrasound. $140 will sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Every contribution matters, and all donations are tax deductible. To join this vital work, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby. Or make your secure donation online at preborn.com/Klavan. Let me repeat that, pound 250, keyword baby, or preborn.com/KLAVAN. Your gift today could save countless lives tomorrow. Final chapter, The Face of the Delusion. I just want to go very quickly through 3 articles that occurred this week. I'm hearing so many stories about how already the magic effect of Donald Trump is clearing away the delusions. People are taking their pronouns off their social media feeds. People in Hollywood are dropping their voices and saying, may not be such a bad thing. Already different stories are being proposed. Really, really interesting stuff is happening kind of behind the scenes, but it will come forth. And it's the reason I'm talking like this. But I want to look at 3 articles that talk about where this delusion comes from or exemplify this delusion. One was by Bret Stephens in the New York Times, a former newspaper. And again, get out of your mind the idea that Bret Stephens is a bad guy. He's a guy who hates Trump. He's a pretty smart guy, and I've always found him a decent person who hates Trump, and I think it's skewed his way of looking at things. He writes a column for the New York Times saying that it's been 3 decades since Daniel Patrick Moynihan published his famous essay on defining deviancy down. And this essay essentially said that every society can only afford to penalize a certain amount of behavior it deems deviant. So as that deviant behavior grows, society adapts not by cracking down, but by normalizing deviant behavior. And so he says, for instance, like when on St. Valentine's Day in 1929, when 4 of Al Capone's gangsters killed 7 other gangsters, that was a crime that shocked the nation. But now, I mean, it happens almost every weekend in Chicago and nobody cares anymore. And so he goes on and on talking about how this has infected our politics. It used to be that, Ronald Reagan, it was a deficit in his election campaign that he had been divorced 30 years before the election campaign. Douglas Ginsburg was denied a place on the Supreme Court because he had once smoked pot. And all of these things, this deviancy has been defined down. And he then goes after Matt Gaetz. Now, this is, I'm sorry, blindness. Matt Gaetz is not a man dressed in a woman's admiral outfit, walking around Health and Human Services saying children should be mutilated for his pleasure. That's not, what Matt Gaetz did. Matt Gaetz made a lot of things, may have done some behaviors, but they were pretty typical political behaviors. And I'm not approving of them. I'm not giving him a pass. I'm just saying that this deviance came from the left through the absence of God. That's, when evangelicals got together and in their funny little way that doesn't make sense to coastal elites said, I think we ought to get married and keep sex within marriage. And we ought to, those funny evangelicals. That's where it happened. That's where it happened. And that is that cultural collection of power on the coasts. That collection of cultural power on the coasts is what shut those voices down and made even those voices hesitate to speak up and say what they had to say because they'd been excluded because the coastal elites had taken over the culture. All right, here's another article from a writer named John Masco in the Wall Street Journal. He says, a couple of days after the election, a closeted Republican friend, and that just the fact that there is such a thing as a closeted Republican, you should tell you what our problem is. A closeted Republican friend sent me a compendium of messages and social media posts he had gathered from some of his left of center colleagues. One insisted that while all of us needed a space to grieve, we had only a few months to prepare for solidly authoritarian rule. Another was looking for open university positions overseas in her specialty since she couldn't come to terms with living in a country, quote, that hates so many of us, where half of us are denied the highest leadership position purely because of our gender. That's the only reason we voted against Kamala Harris. A Massachusetts resident asserted that my rights as a woman are about to be compromised. A man sarcastically congratulated his fellow Americans for voting for 4 more years of fascist ideology, blatant misogyny and racism, toxic masculinity, and spiritual bankruptcy. A woman wrote late on election eve that while she didn't exactly want to die, I just don't care if I wake up the next morning. So he says, how can it be that these leftists are talking nonsense? Donald Trump's not a fascist. People who voted for him aren't fascists. They're not going to be deprived of any rights. He says, right-leaning commentators regularly say that this is because the echo chamber of the media and the Democrat Party. And he says, but there's another reason, which is that conservatives are silenced by that echo chamber. They're afraid to speak up. And so they don't get to see, this is at work, on TV, in Hollywood, in the Academy. You will not see a family pray grace. You will not see a Republican portrayed sympathetically. You will not see somebody make the argument in a decent, tolerant way that maybe alternate sexualities are sinful. All of those things have vanished from our TV screens, and they have therefore vanished from our lives because all of us feel that we're the odd man out for saying these things. If there were no Daily Wire, if there were no Fox News, if there were no Donald Trump, we still would not be saying these things, and it would just eliminate that opinion. And so these people think that the devils from hell, they think they're in a game of Diablo where all those demons rush in on you, in Diablo. That's what they think this is like. And it's just not. It is people who disagree that they have never heard from because they've made it so costly for us to speak. And finally, one more editorial, which was originally published in Publius, an organization of Yale University undergraduates that pens joint op-eds. This is what they suddenly realize. We exist in a very progressive space. In a survey of our peers, well, he goes on to talk about how progressive it is. And he says, meanwhile, conservatives are confined to a glum minority. And then he says, we envy them. While liberal students are cushioned by a sense of majority, conservatives must grapple constantly with difficult questions. They are forced to interrogate their own beliefs in ways their liberal peers need not. It's challenging, but it cultivates resilience, critical reflection, and the capacity to find community amid disagreement. So here is my suggestion to leftists. I will end with this, and it's a good suggestion for right-wingers too. Here are some ways that maybe we can get closer to a shared culture where we disagree in a civilized way. First, let's get our facts straight. That means not reading the New York, cancel your subscription to the New York Times and start getting better sources of factual information. Did a woman really bleed out in a parking lot because Roe v. Wade was overturned, or is that just something that a talking point on the left? Second, find out if your facts are representative. The question is, how did George Floyd die? I don't think we actually know the answer to that yet, and we should actually look into it more carefully. But let's just pretend for a minute that a policeman was at fault and George Floyd, that policeman, by the way, was never accused of being racist, but let's say he actually killed George Floyd. Is that representative of the way police officers treat black people in this country? Because I don't think it is. So just because there's a fact that's headlined by the news, that's how this monster works. It brings out the facts they want you to hear. And if a transgender person goes into a Christian school and Christian children, that gets swept under the rug. So we've got to find out, pause, before you start a riot, pause and say, okay, that may have happened. Let's find out first if it's a fact, and then find out if that fact is representative, and then find out why people of goodwill see things differently than you do. Talk to some people, listen to some people. Don't listen to big mouths. Don't listen to people ranting or shaking their fists at the television screen. Talk to somebody you know who maybe disagrees with you and say, all right, safe space. What the hell? How can you see this differently? Because, I'll tell you something. I know people who are to the left of me, and sometimes I'll, go on a rant or say something, and they'll ask some pointed question. And my wife is a much nicer person than I am. She'd have to be, right? And she might raise a question, and, so of course I lock her in the basement until she changes her mind. But while she's in there pounding on the door, I'll sometimes think to myself, she actually made a pretty good point, and maybe I've got to mitigate my views. That is a way to do it. If we can start to do some of these things, get your facts straight, find out if your facts are representative, and talk to people who disagree with you without screaming at them and calling them names, then we can have a new culture. We can begin out of this election to build a new culture of normality, centered on normality, helpful and blessing normality. We can have conversations, we can have compromise, we can have reform and true liberalism, not leftism. And it can be a new day, and we'll call it something. Well, find a name for it. We'll call it the United States of America. All right, folks, get ready. Our Daily Wire Plus Black Friday sale starts right now. This is our best deal of the year. Get 50% off annual memberships today. No code needed. With Daily Wire Plus, you'll get access to our uncensored daily shows with limited ads, plus breaking news coverage from the most trusted voices in conservative media. Get the facts, get the truth, and get it all for 50% off. And that's not all. Daily Wire Plus is home to the #1 documentary of the decade, Am I Racist?, and our full library of premium entertainment that's reshaping culture. Join the fight today. Klavan Klapbacks.
A rhino and Mike Johnson go into a bar. The bartender looks up and says, "Get the f*** out of here."
Come on. Let's be nicer to Mike Johnson. I like Mike Johnson. He's doing a good job. All right. Klavan Klapbacks is Klavan Klapbacks, both with a K, Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K at dailywire.com. Write in. We love to hear your questions. We love to hear what's on your mind. Please do. And we will answer as many as we can, which is not as many as we'd like. From Jason, who is in Athens, Greece, he says, I've been a fan for some years now. Your book, The Great Good Thing, helped me become a Christian. And for this, I'll be forever grateful. Lately, obviously, because of your elections, you've become much more political and partisan. For me, though, this insistence on minute facts about the politics in your country are mind-numbingly boring. Well, let me say, Jason, why I've been doing that, because I actually, don't like talking about the nitty-gritty of politics. I like talking about the cultural scene. But what has happened in our politics here is going to come to your door. I'm sure you're living in the Acropolis, because that's the only building in Greece I know. And so it's going to come to the Acropolis door. this is a major cultural shift. And I don't know, it can be thwarted. It may end with a nuclear war. I don't know, but this is a major cultural shift and it is going to sweep through the West. And that's why I'm covering it as closely as I can. So get ready, because one day the Acropolis is going to become, you're going to look, instead of that statue of Athena, it's going to be a statue of Donald Trump. From Andrew, you have said many times that you do not think that there should be a pope because it stops people from thinking freely about what Christianity is. That's not what I've said. I've said that I don't think the pope is ever infallible, but ever. But when I look at the argument, I do not quite understand it. If you do not believe the things that a Southern Baptist believes, then you are not a Southern Baptist. In the same way, if you don't believe the things that a Catholic believes, then you are not a Catholic. I would also like to know what are things that you think you have to believe in order to be a Christian, since you leave a bit more wiggle room than the average Christian. The Nicene Creed, that's what I believe. I believe in the Nicene Creed. And I think there should be wiggle room and debate and different, because each one is an individual and God is infinite, that if God is going to be the same for everybody and different for each person. And I know that sounds like a contradiction. It's not. It's a mystery, because each one of us has the image of God within us, and it looks different in each one of us, but it also looks the same in all of us. And that's just part of the mystery of the finite meeting the infinite. And so I think we should wait before we say, you're going to hell because you disagree with me. Before we say that, I think we should say, okay, what's going on here, and why does a person of goodwill see it differently? From Oliver, we have, I picked up your new book, A Woman Underground, after your ceaseless ad reads enacted an unbreakable mind control, forcing me to order all of the Cameron Winter books at once. Good. It should. That's just virtue rising in you. He says, I write to you not simply to say that I haven't put the damn thing down except to go to work in church, but to tell you that reading your book happens to be a watershed for me after an intellectual dry spell induced by depression, a bitter COVID-era high school graduation, falling out with my family and friends, and other tough experiences had all muted my brain. I turned to vice that trapped me in the thoughtless hole. I'm now a converting Catholic, working hard, full of hope for my life and my country. But the one day I had been waiting for was the day I would pick up a book and stay up too late reading like I used to when I was a kid. And that day has arrived. Well, thank you very much. And that just goes to show you people, I'm not just blowing smoke. Buy A Woman, please. You've got an entire Thanksgiving holiday coming. One last one. It's from Eric and Rachel. It says, oh, great Klavan, after the election win, I feel hunky-dunky. Life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing, hunky-dunkety-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy. The world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day. Hurrah, hooray. It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray. I fact-checked that one, and it's absolutely true. Listen, for those of you who are not members yet, go become a member. DailyWire.com/subscribe. Use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. However, I now have to go to Member Block. I want to wish you a happy, happy Thanksgiving. The Klavan clan will be gathering to praise the Lord of creation. So I will not be here next Friday. It will be a Klavanless week, but thanking God will actually get you through that, possibly. For the rest of you, come to Member Block and we have a little more time to spend together.